Well, what start to this Monday morning, 18th day of July. Joining us in the studio is somebody who brings some sunshine to us on this gray, cloudy day. It's Brian DiFonzo. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Is it warm in here?
It is warm.
Did the temperature rise since my arrival? I understand that there was a prediction that maybe that exactly would happen. I don't know, but a little hot warm under the collar, but we're not upset with anybody.
Well, good. Let's add to the heat in the room now. So what's going on? What's happened the past month?
Well, what's happening in the past month is that we just celebrated 1 year of bringing the program back to Crawford County.
What a deal! Good.
Yes, and what an interesting year it's been. I've learned quite a great deal. We still have a lot of strides to be made, but we're sitting down. We're formulating our plans here for year two. We're looking at maybe finding some different ways to get people involved. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag just yet because we're still working on some of the important details. But I will say this, Luke, you'll see a little bit more outreach from us over the next few months. We plan on having a presence. They have a fireman's fair coming up next week in Cambridge Springs. Members of our staff and some other members of our board, maybe even some bigs and littles will start to get involved. We'll be there and we'll be giving out information on the program as we try to spread our wings a little bit. And we also have plans to make an appearance at the Cochranton Fair in the first week of August, and we're still trying to work out the details in some way, shape, or form. The Crawford County Fair, certainly want to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. We're still formulating our plan of how to best do that.
All right, and I can't believe that's coming up next month.
I know. This whole summer, and I seem to say this every year, Lucas. June flies by. Next thing you know, I mean, we are at mid-July, so for all intents and purposes, for most people, we're at the halfway point of summer. Holy smokes, where did the time go?
Or well past.
Yeah, well past.
For me, it's well past.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if I may throw in here, the other thing that I have done, and I thought that this is pretty significant, I think it was more because I was the only one who had time to do it, but the Family Services had approached me back in April and asked if I would represent the Erie region and our program as well, because we are considered an expansion of the Erie program in the eyes of the national organization. And I got to attend the National Big Brothers and Big Sisters Conference down in Orlando, Florida.
Wow.
And it was quite the spectacle. You had people from all over this great country there. Big agencies, small agencies. We were just like one big melting pot of big brothers and big sisters for 3 days. You had your seminars. We had some good motivational speakers. The new CEO from who took over Big Brothers and Big Sisters a couple years ago, I think that she's made some great strides in shoring up some things that maybe got a little bit of away from the organization. They're based now in the home office for National is now located in Tampa, Florida, and this is where this woman is from. And come to find out, and this shouldn't have been a big surprise if you would have seen the way that she kind of carried a crowd at the conference. She was a politician. Before she got involved with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, she worked in government. But she certainly knew how to talk, and I learned a lot of interesting things and met some interesting people.
So she had that long 1 hour haul from Tampa to Orlando.
Yeah, the long 1 hour haul. And here's something that we'll find very easy to believe. The two agencies who brought the most bodies to that conference, yes, they were both from the state of Florida. And it was, of course, the Tampa-based one, which handles both Hillsborough, which is Tampa, and Pinellas County, which is like St. Petersburg, Clearwater area. And then you had the Central Florida one, which is based in Orlando, but you've got like a big 5-6 county area. area. Needless to say, those were the two agencies with the shortest distance to travel, so they had the most people there.
What was the one thing that you took away from that event that you think is going to stick with you for a long time?
Well, the one thing that's going to stick with me is don't forget about the resources that we have within our own organization and start to leverage them better. And I had mentioned about having, bigs and littles show up and be a part of these outreach events. People, Mark, again, I appreciate it. You know how I feel about the program. And
Yep.
People have told me, it is obvious how you feel the program. Well, that's all well and good, but sometimes getting a real good perspective of what it takes to be able to do this program, talk to the people who are currently doing the job. And I think that element needs to be done more, and that's definitely going to be part of our plan here heading into year 2.
And
I was going to say, what I'm curious about is you've got a year under your belt now with this program. You've been to Orlando, and of course, you've just talked about your passion for this. I mean, it's very obvious, of course. Has that changed, improved, deepened? Is it different after a year?
Well, it's different in this regard, Mark. Well, and this is something that we found out through the organization that's helped us bring this program back, the grant that we received to help get us going. They looked at our original plan, and as much as they loved it, they thought that we were a little aggressive. They thought we were a little aggressive in our planning. So what we did is we sat down with them, and they said, this looks to be a little bit more realistic for your area. And here's why. What they have found in rural areas such as ours, takes a little longer for things to kind of catch on. So you kind of got to stick with it a little bit more. Finding volunteers, they say it seems like in the rural areas is maybe not as challenging because you can, target certain, urban areas, I should say. But in the rural areas, and again, we have a pretty vast geographical area that we're covering. So it's going to take some time for us to make some inroads into those other communities and help drum up interest. And it's good to know that, some people that maybe have helped, get these programs started before, their knowledge and having them have input on what we're trying to do, I think is pretty valuable. So, definitely a learning experience all the way around.
So are you constantly adjusting that business plan, if you will?
Yeah, there has to be you have to be flexible, Luke, and you have to be ready to be able to change some things along the way, but the underlying goal is still the same. We still want to match, we want to try to make the best matches possible, and that's done through the questioning process, and again, that's why it's a process. That's why we just don't say, hey, okay, we'll go put you, just come on into the office and we'll match you up with somebody. No, it doesn't work that way. We have to go those extra steps to at least give us some sort of a blueprint of what makes these people tick, because you want to try to get people together where common interests, common thoughts, because that all helps set the table for a good relationship.
Well, that's what you want for a successful for a success story. You've got a lot of them, too.
Yes, absolutely. Of the matches that we have made, we've only had to terminate one of those. And again, it wasn't because of a lack of interest, really. And again, it was an unfortunate thing. It was more of a rules violation type of thing. So yeah, Mark, that's probably my biggest success story right there, is the ones that we have made, they've stuck, and they seem to be real good ones at this time. And one of the marks of this program, if you do it right, what I see happening is I want to see these kids go through the program until they graduate, because that sets the stage right there for a lifetime friendship, even after they age out or graduate out of the program.
And it's not like one of those things where you guys brought the program back and you sat and waited for kids to get on a list. I mean, it was like right off the bat you had, here's a list of kids ready to go. Now it's the process of finding those volunteers to help be bigs.
Absolutely. And again, I understand where it is from the adult standpoint, where you really got to take a look at it, because one of the things that came out in that conference, as much as we would love to have volunteers just crawling over the gate, just waiting to get in, they brought up an important point. you got to make sure it's a right fit. Not everybody can. They said, no, they don't like to tell you this because you're into recruiting. But some people, unfortunately, aren't meant to be mentors. So that's why we go through this heavy screening process. And one of the things, Luke, to tell you how seriously they take it, I took the very first day that I was there, the whole day was on child safety. The whole day. And this is something that us in the program, we have to do this type of training each and every year and get certified each and every year.
Wow.
Now, I got my certification because I sat through that whole day. Now, they'll have little pocket seminars for other employees who couldn't make it, that you can also perform and get the certificate that way. But, I just illustrated a point. This is how serious that they take this sort of stuff, and they really broke things down piece by piece by piece to be able to do it in an all-day seminar.
You find that there are certain people who are particularly wired to do this?
Absolutely. And some of these people of which I speak, they're the types that, let's say their kids have grown. But they're still fairly young and they're fairly active. And it's the classic empty nest syndrome. These are the types of people that can make excellent mentors. The other type is just those who just have a desire to be a positive difference in a child's life. You get some of those as well. And you'll find that a lot of times, we tap into people like that. They know other people. And again, sometimes that sells the program so much better than I would ever be able to do that. But again, Mark, we're going back to that process, okay? We still have other people to try to get interested in that will maybe help encourage other people to get involved with the program.
22 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock. This is the Morning Drill on Stream Television and the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network. I'm curious, when you're down there and you're among your peers, do you find that whether it's a big organization or a small organization, that the problems are relatively the same?
Very similar. There is not one Big Brothers Big Sisters program in all of the United States that doesn't have a waiting list of children needing matched. They don't match up with the number of volunteers they have ready to go. So every single organization has waiting lists. It's an unfortunate nature of our beast. So yes, that was the common issue. Some of them talked about the funding. The funding that goes to keep their programs afloat, and sometimes, we all get hit with that, the big man syndrome. You had this big time, benefactor for all these years.
Oh, right.
And you almost come to rely on it. You almost come to expect it. Well, sometimes things happen. And basically, they are finding ways of encouraging you to try to keep seeking other revenue streams to help lessen any big blow if like, let's say, the big bank or the big business in town either ran into their own financial problems, or B, for some reason, just can't give that year. But the only thing about that, we live in an area where, there's X amount to choose from. And so it's a little bit more important for us to not forget about the little guys, too, that are helping. Because sometimes we may need to get 4 little guys to be able to replace one big guy. So again, that was another a good sizable portion of the seminar were seminars on that subject.
So when you came back and you reported to the higher ups, was it worth the trip?
Yeah, I think it was worth the trip. There were some little things on the side during the evening hours, that really didn't have anything to do with the conference that I would have liked to have turned out a little better. But that was no fault of the conference and no fault of my parent company. So yeah, it was, and they were the ones who told me, said, listen, if you're going to go down and do something like this, you've got 3 days at the conference, you might as well take a week and you might as well work in a couple of days in there. And like, well, yeah, you're right. Luckily for us, we have family in the Tampa area, so we were able to go visit them. And then Tina and I had a day for ourselves at the end of the conference.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it was very nice. It was kind of like a little bit of a winding down before we head back. And then, Luke, off camera, I'll tell you all about what happened on the flight back, because I would use up the rest of the time, and we're here to talk about other subjects. But it was interesting, to say the least.
Wow. So usually trips like that, you come back renewed, excited. Now you're, again, and this is what I like about you, Brian. You're somebody who just didn't fall into this position or just do it because it's a job and there's a paycheck. You've been involved in this program for a long time. You are a big. You believe in this.
Absolutely.
And the relationship you had with your little continues today.
Sure does. He called me a month and a half ago. He wanted to know if he could use me as a job reference. I mean, what better compliment can you have than that?
Oh, wow.
And the boy's going to turn around and try to earn his own money so he can do some things.
Wow.
And again, that was kind of like in my underlying goal. When you get old enough, as long as your grades are good and your mom says it's okay, I'd like to see you get out in the world and see how you can contribute to it. And then, earn a few bucks in the process.
So were you, as soon as the conference wrapped up, were you like, boy, I'm excited to get back to work?
Well, I'll tell you what.
After my week off.
Yes, after my week off, of course. But no, it's certainly, to agree with you there, Luke, yes, it certainly gave me some things of which to focus on. And when I sat down with our marketing person and my higher-ups and a couple of other people in the program, I said, listen, these are a couple things that came out in the conference, and I think that they're extremely doable. And can we work this into the plan? And they said, yeah, I think that we can. So I would say yes. It was definitely it definitely gave me some good ideas, and also too it reconfirmed my the importance of a program such as this. If you would have seen some of the speakers who came up, one guy brought his little brother that he had with him for about 5 years. And the success story there was that the boy was working really hard to, find a way to get accepted to college. And he did get accepted to college. And he credits the help of his big brother in putting him in position to be able to go get his college education.
It really sounds like the things that keep you guys, and by that I mean everyone in the program, that keep you all propelled with this, are these success stories.
Absolutely, Mark, absolutely, because they just goes to show that, with a little bit of good guidance on the side, you can certainly help point a child in what most people would consider the right direction. Absolutely.
So, for those watching or listening right now, and it could be businesses, it could be people of influence, it could just be the everyday person, what is it that they should know about the program? How can they get involved? What can they do?
Sure. Okay. Well, in addition to mentoring, Luke, we run different events throughout the year. And that includes our Big Bowl for Kids' Sake event, which will be coming up in April 1st in 2017. These are different ways where people can contribute to the program, even if they don't feel that they have enough time to be a mentor. You can still be a part of us by helping us at these types of events. When we're doing outreach, like at the Crawford County Fair, up at the Cambridge Springs Fair, we could always use some help there at places like that and help spread the word about our organization. So there are other ways to get involved, and I'd certainly love to tell you more about it. You can call my office at 724-4800, extension 135. If I'm not there, just leave a message. I will return your call, and again, I'll be try to answer any questions that people may have.
And I think folks should know too, if they are trying to call you and you will return their phone call, there's a good chance you're out of the office because you're out at a fair or festival, or you're out with, your job takes you out of the office quite a bit.
It does. Or I'm attending, maybe, again, I'm a member of the Titusville Kiwanis, and I go to a lot of Meadville Kiwanis meetings. And sometimes I've been a guest at Rotary. Both they have an AM and a PM. I've been a guest at both. Lions Club is going to be my next stop. And then I spoke with the Golden K Club, which is a senior citizens version of Kiwanis. I spoke with them last month, and it went really, really well. So I'll continue to make that circuit.
Very nice. Hey, as we wrap up, Brian, I want to ask, high school football begins next month. We're just weeks away.
It's funny. I was up at the restaurant, and I certainly hope you continue the deal that you've gotten in past years. I don't know what you two worked out, but I was up there last night. My wife and I went up there for dinner, and I told him, I says, one of the highlights of doing a hometown Friday night football is the food that we get before we go on the air. I hope we can keep that going.
It's just hard to believe.
I know. A month away, and I'm sure Coach Tom Hancock's got people busy. They're playing some 7-on-7 football. So yeah, it'll be here before we know it, Luke.
All righty, Brian DiFonzo joining us this morning. Brian, one more time, what's that phone number?
Okay, his phone number 724-4800, extension 135. I'd love to talk to you.
All right, and good to see you this morning.
All right, great seeing all of you. Thanks again.
Yeah, stay dry.
I try to.
All righty.
Always good to have you here.
All right.
Final look at news coming up next.